Hare Krishna, nice to see everybody. We missed you last week, Gornitai Prabhu. We're going to the farm tomorrow morning, and I'll be, they're asking me to give a class almost every day. So we'll be there for, um, I think out of 6 days we'll give class like 4 days or something. And they wanted more, but I'm just, it's a little much for me. And then we're going to Padayatra for some
They are
days.
intelligent person. They get
They-
whoever is possible. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I have a friend there. Oh,
But when I go there, I see all the cows are crying, and then I take a photograph of you, and they become like very emotional, and they all start coming around. And
yeah. I will ask one of them to go to you special.
okay, we'll go ahead and start now. Hari Chandra Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Gauraganya Gana Gocha Goloruharam Gauranga Guritama Gopyata Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoya Mara Prana Re Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya, Prema-bhakti-candrika Padama Pumata, Tasmai Jaganmangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Srikuryat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathapta Brajabala Bapahimam Pancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhyahevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Krishna Namamrita Bharshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Baraya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Shira Narotamaya. Again and again I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna radiating from the moon of his mouth destroys the darkness of ignorance. Nice to see everybody here today. And before I forget, Dorothea, thank you so much. You've been really a big help for our work with Gora. The Sesara Prabhu is really appreciating your input a lot. So we've been speaking something on the fifth song from Prema-bhakti-candrika, which is titled Raga Nuga Bhakti Riti, a glimpse into the path of loving attachment. And we've been, the last 10 sessions have been about this particular stanza, this eighth stanza of that. Yugala Charana Sevi Nirantara E Bhavi Anuragi Taki Bashadoi Sadane Bhaviba Jaha Sudadehe Paba Taha Raga Patira E Se Upai. I will constantly desire to serve the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna with loving attachment. Whatever I contemplate during the path of devotional service will certainly be achieved upon perfection in a spiritual body. This is a method on the path of attachment. So as we've been mentioning, some Vaishnavas, some of our family members of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they cite this line, Sadhani Bhavibe Jaha Siddhadehe Haba Taha, as one of their primary evidences for supporting their particular bhajan pranali, their particular system of bhajan as Siddha pranali. And some of them say this is the only path. Some of the Babajis who are a little wiser understand it's a path, and it's not the only path. And in fact, the common path, the path for this age, is the chanting of the holy name. And so we've been examining this through the light of the Yoga Sutras and through different Puranas and things. We've established something, what the meaning of yoga is. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. It means when the mind is stilled and it's fixed, and how ahankara is an obstacle for that, ahamta and mamata, self-identification, this is me, I, and mine, mamata, or possessiveness, and how that chitta, very importantly, is described by Srila Sridhar Swami in his Bhavarta Deepika commentary on the Bhagavatam as Bhagavad Bimba Grahitvam. Bhagavad Bimba Grahitvam means that the nature of chitta is that it has a reflective quality. So first thing is, if you want to clean a mirror, you have to if you want to see yourself in a mirror, you have to clean it. And similarly with our chitta, we have to clean that. So that cleansing process is there through the holy name. And then when we begin to see that, as part of that, we have to practice Trinadapi Sunichena. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he used to say that our Siddha Pranali mantra is Trinadapi Sunichena. And this is practical. This is real according to Yoga Sutras, according to the Puranas. Our problem is our hamta and mamata. And we give that up by taking on the mood of surrender in approaching Guru. And the way that's done, we see through the words of Sanatana Goswami when he came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I've just started work this morning on the next issue of our Bindu, which I'm thinking to focus on because Sanatana Goswami's disappearance day will be coming up, and Guru Purnima, which is the same day. And so I was thinking to do an issue about Sanatana Goswami in Guru Tattva, something, just as a side comment. So we should understand something about the necessity of chanting on the blessings of Sadhu Guru, chanting with Sadhu Guru, and doing that as service. And we spoke something about that in our last session. Let's look a little more closely again at that. I'm still reviewing a little bit now. And Krishna told Durvasa Muni famously in the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, Sadhavo hridayam mayam sadhanam hridayam tvaham mananyate najanati naham tebyo managapi. He says, if you want to find me, don't go to my temple. If you want to find me, don't go to just my deity. He said in the Padma Purana, he says, Naham tistami Vaikunte. You won't find me in Vaikunta. You won't find me in Shastra. He said, but you'll find me with the devotees, where the devotees are speaking Hari Katha. I'm in the heart of my devotees, and my devotees are in my heart. So we want to purify our heart. We want to understand what is our eternal spiritual position. But to do that, we have to become one with Guru in the heart through the medium of the holy name. And then if we chant, understanding that this chanting is the thing that pleases Guru the most, then we can meet Sadhu Guru in the holy name. We can please him or her, through the chanting of the holy name. And in that way, we'll remember, we'll find Krishna. Because Krishna himself, he chants the names of the devotees. And we cited in a few sessions ago a verse from the Adi Purana, very nice verse. Shriya Helaya Nama Vritanti Mama Jantavaha Tesham Nama Sada Parta Vartate Hridaye Mama. Krishna says, they're chanting my name, I'm always chanting their name. That's the nature. So if we chant the names of Krishna on the order of Guru, Tate Krishna Bhaji Kuru, guru-sevan, as a service to Guru, that's real nama-bhajan. And repeatedly, our acharyas have quoted this verse from the Vamana Kalpa. It's in Bhakti Sandarbha. It's in, I think, in a couple of Sandarbhas, and I've seen it quoted also by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and some other places. Yo mantra saguru sakshat. You should understand that the mantra you chant is directly your Guru. And Yo Guru Sahari Swayam. The Gurudev is directly the manifestation of Krishna. Guru Yasha Bhavet Tushtas Tasya Tushto Hari Swayam. And so when the Guru is pleased and Krishna is pleased, Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasada, Yasya Prasadad Nagati Kutopi. That's our system. And the holy name itself, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes, and in Padyavali, we're still reviewing a little bit, looking back before we can go forward. Atagoroshi Padadvanva Bhaktim, that Krishna's name gives us bhakti to the spiritual master, because the Guru is there in the holy name. It's not that Guru wants money, or Guru wants some beautiful women, or an apartment, or this thing. The Guru wants to see that people chant the holy name. That's our primary thing. And Srila Prabhupada described in many, many different places that this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is a prayer for service. And that we're praying, please let me serve you. And so we also commented in our last session how there's two aspects of service, or you can say three. There's a sevak, there's a sevya. Srila Prabhupada described in one lecture, seva means there's a sevak, and there's a master savior, one is who we worship. So Krishna is Savior, and he's Savior Bhagavan, and the Guru is Sevaka Bhagavan. He's a manifestation, therefore it's Gurudev who gives us service. Lagadom Mujako Krishna Charan, Lagadom Mujako Gora Charan. That's the function of Guru, not just some institutional function or whatever. In our last session, Leela Purushottam Prabhu, you asked some questions, which you said, you prefaced that this is very controversial. And those were so controversial. Do you know what happened to me? Just a day, I think, how many days? A few days after that session, I was at Rath Yatra, and some devotee walked up to me I've never seen before, and he said, Prabhuji, I watched that session. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. It meant so. And he's initiated by someone in the Gaudiya Math. And he said, I don't know how it is that you can say something like this online and you don't get in trouble. I hope I don't get in trouble for that.
I'll apologize. I didn't want to get in trouble.
Trouble comes if we speak the truth in this world. That's always a problem. So now in this session, I'd like to speak something more about the connection of the holy name and guru. And I'd like to begin, because we're going to say some little radical things about this. I'd like to begin with speaking strongly and giving a lot of citations about the importance of chanting the holy name. Let's start with this quote from Srila Prabhupada, something that he's spoken. He was in Denver, Colorado on a morning walk. He said, I think in a lecture actually, he said, the holy name is so powerful that even by chanting with offense, gradually one becomes pure. Therefore, we should not give up chanting. Under any circumstances, we should go on chanting Hare Krishna. Sometimes devotees, they say, oh, chanting Hare Krishna is very difficult. There's offenses to be considered, and therefore we should chant. And I've, amongst many different things which I consider to be very serious deviations. One is that some persons have recommended, well, we should chant Goranam or Nityanandanam. And even I know one person who started chanting the name and the pranam mantra of his guru on his beads instead of chanting Hare Krishna. That's a big deviation. Chanting Hare Krishna, as we spoke in many sessions, is the Yuga Dharma for this age. My Guru Maharaj used to quote Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu, where he speaks about 7 different types of persons who bring pain to the heart. Nripo means a king. Nripo na hari sevita, a king who doesn't serve Krishna or Krishna's devotees. Vyaya kriti na haryarpaka. A miser who has a lot of money, but he doesn't give any to Krishna. That's the second. The third is a kavi, a poet, who na hari varnaka, who doesn't write any poems for the pleasure of Krishna. And the fourth is what I wanted to mention from this verse, Shrita guru na harashritaha. Someone who's taking shelter of guru, at least externally, but they're not chanting Hare Krishna. They're not taking shelter of Krishna. That person is like a spear in the heart. And then we'll just finish the verse. Guni na hari tat paraha. Someone who's a guni, they have good qualities, but na hari tat paraha. They're not interested in serving the Lord. Sarasadirna krishnashraya. Someone who they have booty, some good intelligence, sarasadir, but not krishnashraya. They're not taking shelter of Krishna. And the 7th, spirit in the heart, sana braja ramanugaha. Someone who, same person, but they're not taking shelter of the Braj Gopikas. These are 7 persons which are like spears in the heart. So the 4th category, Shrita Guru na Harashritaha, someone who takes shelter of Guru but not of Krishna. Such a person, they're just making a show of the shelter of Guru. And this is also one of the results that happen when we stress the position of Guru as being an institutional position. And although Shastra repeatedly describes the importance of taking shelter of Guru and of taking mantra from Guru, getting initiated, and Srila Prabhupada spoke about that quite a lot. Unfortunately, sometimes when we stress in that in an institutional kind of way, and I'll even say something more controversial, when we try to put limits on who your guru can be, either through institutional ways, including by someone's nationality, by one's family, by their gender, then you're trying to control Krishna. And this creates a big problem when then initiation becomes just an institutional thing. So this chanting is our everything. Better that we died and stopped chanting is a beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, spoken by Haridas Thakur. The Chankazi, they came to the Chankazi, some of the Muslims, and complained about Haridas Thakur, that he's born in a Muslim family, but he's chanting Hare Krishna. And so the Chankazi sent some guards to bring Haridas Thakur to him. And the Chankazi told Haridas, he said, look, I knew your father. He's a good man. I know your family. We'll just forget all about this. You just do one thing. You just stop chanting Hare Krishna. And if you don't stop chanting Hare Krishna, then I can't say what's going to happen. And then Haridas Thakur spoke this verse, which is quoted by many of our acharyas, the kanda kanda deha mora. Kanda means to cut to pieces. Deha means my body, mora, my body. Jaya jati pran. You may cut my body to pieces. Jaya jati pran. You may, my life, my prana may leave my body. But tatapi vadane na chari harinam. I'll never give up chanting the holy names. Each and every part of my body that you cut it up into, it'll keep chanting the holy names. This is the attitude that we should have for chanting. And as Srila Prabhupada described in that lecture in Denver, Colorado, even if someone's committing offenses, and this is a statement in the Padma Purana, this particular verse on our board right now is spoken by Vyasadeva, and it comes directly after the 10 offenses. Now, perhaps he was thinking that aham mama bhav, or thinking that I'm this body, is the 10th offense. That's a pretty difficult one to give up. So then some people might think that, oh, better that I don't chant Hare Krishna because it's so difficult to do. He spoke this first then. Nama-parada yuktanam. Even though you may be nama-parada yukta, you're with chant, you're doing nama-parad. Namanyeva haranchagam. Don't stop chanting. Avishranti prayuktani tani vartakarani cha. You keep chanting, and eventually all those offenses will go away. This is our process. So, going back to the relationship of guru and disciple, Rupa Goswami, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he's given 64 different angas of bhakti. And the first of those angas, he speaks about, in the first 3 of those angas, he speaks about guru. Let's see. What is going on here? Okay. He says out of these 64 angas of bhakti, Guru Padashrayas Tasmat. The first thing is we should take shelter of Guru. The second thing, Krishna Dikshadi Sikshanam. We should take initiation and we should get some instruction from Guru. And then the third thing is Vishram Bena guru-seva. What do we do with that diksha, with that initiation? What do we do with that relationship? We should render service to Guru in Vishramba. Vishramba means actually when the disciple and the Guru become one. And I often quote this from this article from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati called The Associates of Sri Chaitanya. I'll go ahead and put this up on the board too. It's such a... And we've given lots of classes about this. Leela Purushottam Prabhu is very familiar with this. Speaking about how Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an extended subject. And if you want to approach him, if you want to worship him, there's a necessity of also worshiping his different forms in the Panchatattva and in Guru. And he speaks very beautifully about this. The Guru is the embodiment of the manifestation of the divinity, the pure receptive spiritual essence of the disciple. I gave a class kind of picking this apart and explaining it not so long ago in New Braja Dham. So he speaks about Guru and how Guru is a manifestation of the Lord to a disciple. The Guru is that personality who's there with the Lord, and he can guide the disciple. Otherwise, the disciple by himself can't receive that divinity. And then he says, in this highlighted yellow text, the individual soul is a separable constituent of the Guru. It's only when he happens to be associated by his own free choice with the Guru in a completely dependent manner that he can be on the plane of the Guru's service of the divinity. So we spoke about this in New Braja Dham. I think also we've had some sessions speaking about this aspect here, how it doesn't mean something impersonal, but it's that Krishna's in the heart of his devotee. He's in the heart of Gurudev, and Krishna's in the form of the holy name, and Gurudev's in the form of the holy name. When we associate with Gurudev in a completely dependent manner, completely dependent upon the chanting of the holy names, then we also come to this Guru's platform of service of the divinity. So that guru-seva is everything. But it's not that most people don't experience that. We hear a lot of times devotees saying, well, there's no bona fide guru. But actually the saying is in Hindi, Guru mili laki laki sishya mili ek, that there's hundreds of millions, there's trillions and quadrillions of bona fide spiritual masters in the spiritual world. But sishya mili ek, the difficulty is to find even one bona fide disciple in this world. And that connection with the guru, that attitude of the disciple of following instruction of guru is everything. There's an important verse which our acharyas often comment on from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, speaking about the followers or the sons of Advaita Acharya. Acharya mata jay say mata sar. The mata, or the order, mata also means the mood or the understanding of the guru. Say mata sar, that's everything, that mata. Tana age langi chali say tasar. And anyone who disobeys, performs the third offense of the holy name, which is guru avagya, to disobey the order of guru, that person becomes asar. There's sar and asar. Sar means the essence, this is my life. And asar means useless. It means there is no life because we disobeyed the order of guru. So our siddha deha arises by this service to guru. But the problem we have is this ahankara, which is spoken about by Krishna in the 11th canto, chapter 28 of the Bhagavatam, Shoka Harsha Bhaya Krodha Lobha Moha Sprihadaya Ahankara Shadrishyante Janma Mrityascha Natmanaha. He says we have these problems, which is we also spoke about these from the Yoga Sutras before, that these different aspects of lamentation, shoka, harsha, being happy, laughing, vaya, fear, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, bewilderment, sprihadaya, hankering for things, and so on. All of these things, they're aspects of the hankar, of the false ego. And as long as we have that, there's no question, how can we understand our siddha deha? So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Sarartha Darshani commentary on that verse, he gives some important comments. Oh, nice comments there from Ujjwal and Lila Purushottam Prabhu. Thank you. Please remind me if I don't comment on them. Vishwanath says that this fear and lamentation, they're not qualities of the Atma. Since we don't see these qualities during deep sleep, if someone's sleeping very deeply, if you're not sleeping so deeply, you're dreaming, then that fear and lamentation will be there. But in very deep sleep, it's not there. So when ahankara is absent and Atma is still active, that's the time of deep sleep. Though ahankara is responsible for lamentation and fear, ahankara does not experience them since it's unconscious. The samsara does not belong to ahankara either. So this is our system. I'd like to turn now to a really famous verse and examine this a little bit from the Padma Purana when we talk about chanting. Just going back to the verse we just spoke about, there's another similar verse from the Padma Purana which speaks about Soka Marshadi Bir Bhavai, with when someone's, the word uses akrantam. Akrantam means to be attacked or afflicted by this lamentation and pride or anger and things. And then Rupa Goswami quotes this, Spurti Sambhavana Bhavet, that Krishna won't manifest. The holy name won't manifest. Our siddha deha won't manifest when we have it. And therefore, there's a necessity of Trinadapi Sunichina. This is our Siddha Pranali mantra. And that Trinadapi Sunichina has to be reposed or offered to Gurudev. So now let's look at Padma Purana. This is a verse which is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita and in Madhuli and in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Ata Shri Krishna Nama Adi. Krishna, Adi means to begin with. Krishna's name, beginning with Krishna's name, Prabhupada translates it here, beginning the material senses, nabhaved graham indriya, with my material senses, they can't perceive Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes. But sevan mukhihi jiva do swayameva sparatyada. When we engage in service, sevan mukhe, with jiva do, what is a jiva? Jiva means the tongue. Now, at this point, if you're a little bit sharp in knowing Bhagavad Gita and philosophy, then you may point out that, well, excuse me, the verse contradicts itself, because it speaks about the indriya. Indriya means that there's panchagan indriya. Panchagan indriya means the 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, which are the eyes, the ears, the sense of touch, the nose, and the tongue. But then the next line says, Sevan mukhihi jiva do. But the first line says you can't perceive of Krishna's name and things with your senses. But the second line says that when you perceive it with your tongue, when you use your tongue, then it manifests, paratyada. There's a spurti. The important word here in this verse is sevan mukhe. That when we do the same activity, but we do it as service, this is an all-important thing, then Krishna's name manifests. So in reference to our Ridvik friends, or to our friends who just want to have an institutional conception of Krishna consciousness, and I've gotten a certificate because I chant 1 round a day and whatever, that's very good. We want to encourage that. And we're not against our Ridvik friends either. They want to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, etc. But according to this verse, you are not going to be able to experience Krishna's name, Krishna as being non-different from Krishna himself, unless we chant the holy name as a service, because Krishna is in the heart of his devotees. We can't separate Krishna from his devotees. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said in one lecture that if there's no name, if there's no sadhu, there's no name. You can't separate the two from each other. It's a very, very important consideration. And there's another similar verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila chapter 22. You probably heard, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi, that this is the nature of Krishna consciousness. It's eternally there in the heart of everyone. Now, some devotees want to know, well, is our Swarup eternally fixed, or is it something that we cultivate? That's a controversial subject matter, which I personally don't think is so important. What is important is that we know what is our sadhana. What is our sadhya? What is our sadhana? Our sadhya means the goal. Our goal is definitely Krishna Prema. Our sadhana, niraparadi namloy pai prema dana. Our sadhana, the process to achieve the sadhya, is chanting the holy names. So in this verse, it says that it's nitya siddha. Just like we give examples sometimes of a baby lion. If you take a baby lion cub away from its mother and give it to some sheep, and the baby lion drinks milk from the sheep, and as a baby lion grows up, following all the sheep around it, it thinks it's a sheep, and it starts eating grass. Now, you can look at that baby lion, that lion cub as it's growing up, and you can correctly say that creature is a flesh eater, a meat eater. But at the same time, it's never had flesh before in its life. But the propensity, the innate natural propensity for that body is to eat flesh. So in the same way, the natural innate propensity in all living entities is to love Krishna. And sadhya kabunoi, one of the meanings of this is that it can't be obtained through sadhana. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, sadhya kabunoi. You can't get that Krishna Prema by performing sadhana. And a similar statement is made, my Guru used to quote, in Kavi Kanapur's Chaitanya Chandramrita Natakam. Shavanadi Sudha Chitte Kodye Udoy. But it's awoken by hearing and chanting Kodye Udoy as service to Guru. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta explains this verse in this way. It's very similar to the previous verse. Atashri Krishna Nama De Nabhaved Grayam Indriyai. The same purport is there. These, again, are things which we don't stress so often in our line, but they're important. They're important for devotees who want to go deeper. Otherwise, we can become discouraged that why it's not working. Now, when we speak about the chanting of the holy names, we should chant a lot of names. We should be constantly chanting. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the Tanada Pisanichini verse, he says that Kirtaniya Sadahari. We should always chant. Now, some Vaishnavas, they cite two verses from the Chaitanya Bhagavat about how many names we should chant. Now, let's look at that because we're going to say some stuff about this. Prabhu Boli Jana Laksheshwara Bali Kari. Mahaprabhu one day he called the devotees and he said, do you know what is a Lakeshwar? Lakeshwar in old India used to be like a billionaire. Now a Lakeshwar is like nothing. They'll say a Kroreshwar. That's a more common word. But Lakeshwar means you've got 100,000 rupees, which is not very much today. But he says, so what is a Lakeshwar? Pratidina Lakshanama Jay Grahana Kore. It's someone who every day is chanting 100,000 names of the day, a day. And that person, say Janura Nama Ami Boli Lakeshwar. I say that person is a Laksheshwar. Tata Bhiksha Amar Na Jai Anyagar. And I'll take my meals there. I won't go to anyone else's house. So pretty strong verse. And there are many Vaishnavas today who promote that this chanting of 64 rounds, or lack of day, is the primary number that we should chant. And they cite the fact that Srila Prabhupada, when he initially gave initiation to the devotees, at first he wanted them to chant 1 lakh a day, and then there was some negotiations. Prabhupada, we really can't do that. Okay, 32. Prabhupada finally brought it down to 16 rounds a day. So I have some reflections I'd like to share with you about that. Why only 1 lakh a day? Mahaprabhu says, Kirtaniya Sadahari, we should always chant. Sometimes devotees, they say, well, in the Gaudiya Math, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he initiated everybody into chanting 1 lakh a day. I had some good fortune. In the last over 30 years in India, I had some very sweet relationships with probably 5 or 6 different disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, some of whom were very, very affectionate to me. And I spoke to them and I asked them some of these questions. They're all gone. As far as I know, there's no more living disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta on the planet today. And I asked them about this sometimes, and all of them said the same thing to me. Actually, the common number of rounds that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta initiated devotees into was 4 every day. Well, wait a minute, that's a pretty radical thing. It's pretty radical when we speak about 16 rounds in our society and only chant 4. And this is why many of the Gaudiya Maths, they have that as a standard, 4 rounds. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was doing that. Then where does the 64 rounds thing come from? There's a story which you'll also find in Bhakti Vikas Maharaj's book on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was requesting all the devotees to chant 1 lakh a day. And there was one devotee who was chanting like that, and but he had a friend in the ashram who wasn't chanting. And he went later to his Guru Maharaj and said, this devotee, he's not chanting 1 lakh a day. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, yes, he's chanting 1 lakh a day. And the devotee said, Guru Maharaj, I'm sorry, but he's not. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, no, he's chanting 1 lakh. He said, the devotee said, Guru Maharaj, I'm with him constantly, except when he goes to the toilet. He's not chanting 64 rounds a day. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, you don't see it in chanting, but I do. Sometimes when devotees hear a recording of Srila Prabhupada chanting japa, they become disturbed because there's some words which seem to be missing, right, from Prabhupada's chanting. We may not hear them, but Krishna hears them. And Srila Prabhupada is chanting that, and we should have strong faith in that. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's point was that devotees should constantly chant. If you're working frying things for Damodar, you should constantly chant or be hearing. And by that constant chanting, it's considered that's non-different from 1 lakh a day. And for me, that makes sense, because if you want to cite these 2 verses from Chaitanya Bhagavat as a standard, and some of our acharyas do so, Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes it in many places, but I don't find it fully satisfying because it's not mentioned in any of the other biographies like Chaitanya Mangal or Chaitanya Charitamrita. And moreover, we don't hear anything about that in Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Navadvip. It's not that Sachi Mata was chanting 64 rounds a day, and Mahaprabhu was taking prasadam from her and from many devotees who were not chanting 1 lakh a day. Later in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu said this. Now let's look at another thing which is more disturbing. I really like to disturb everybody today. Now, this is something we heard in classes for actually, I think he spoke about this probably for a week or more from our dear Fakir Mohan Prabhu in Bhubaneswar after Guru Maharaj had left. This is from Hari Bhakti Vilas, from the 17th Vilas, and this is text 191. Sanatana Goswami speaks about japa. Shanai Shanai Suvispastam na dutam na vilambitam na nyunam nadikam vapi japam kurya dine dine. This is dine dine. This is how we should do our japa. Shanai Shanai Suvispastam. Steadily, clearly, not too fast, not too slow. And na nyunam nadikam vapi. Not too much, not too little, and not too much. This is the statement of Srila Sanatana Goswami. Don't chant too much japa. Okay? What does that mean? And this is a little bit of a postgraduate discussion because Srila Prabhupada, he stressed that we should be constantly chanting. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said we should be constantly chanting. But here, when he speaks about japa, Srila Sanatana Goswami quotes this verse, that you shouldn't chant too much or too little. Now, a few verses later, he speaks something more about this, and then he gives some commentary on it. So let's look at that. Atakuryaj japam nityam sakya niyata sankhya sankhya purto chakurvita pranayamayam punakriti. Excuse me, pranayamamam punakriti, that we should chant in a regular way according to our capacity, japam nityam shakya niyata sankhya. We should chant sankhya nam. This is Narada Pancharatra. Now, in his commentary on this verse, in his Digdarshana Tika, Sanatana Goswami gives an explanation that what does this shakya yata sakti mean? Yaniyata nitya niyamita japa sankhya tashyaiva nityam japam kuryat nanyunam nadikam vapi. Quotes back to that text 191. Japam kuryat dine itya yadupe sankhyaya stasya purto chasamapto satyam. That we should chant according to our capacity when we do Sankhya Nam. Now he's making a distinction between Sankhya Nam and Asankhya Nam. Sankhya Nam means when we're counting. Counting is what we do on our beads, and that's very important. And we should do according to our quota. And then when we finish it, we should stop chanting. But it doesn't, we should stop chanting on our beads, but it doesn't mean that we should stop chanting. We should keep chanting. We should be constantly chanting in our sleep, while we're eating, while we're working, whatever we're doing, we should try to be chanting a Hare Krishna mantra. That's the purport of these verses. But it's not that we should try to chant something more than we can. Our chanting is our contract, is our connection with our Gurudev. And Gurudev tells us how much we should chant. There's a story that I heard recently from Jayapataka Maharaj, who we're going to come to this discussion a little bit more on here, that at one point Jayapataka Maharaj was chanting 32 rounds a day, not 64, but just 32. Very sincere. And Srila Prabhupada, when he found out about that, this is, Jayapataka Maharaj spoke about this once in Atlanta, Georgia, that when Prabhupada came to know about it, he said, no, don't do that. When you finish chanting your 16 rounds, then you go out and you preach. So this point is there that we can't approach the holy name. Ata Shri Krishna Nabadi Nabavedrayam Indriyai. We can't approach the holy name on our own. We approach as service, Sevan Mukhi Jiva Do Swayameva Sparatyada, through Gurudev. And then Swayameva Sparatyada, the holy name is supposed to do something. It manifests. If that holy name is not manifesting, if we're not seeing that Name Prasvatito Hai Rupa Guna Karma, if Krishna doesn't appear in the form of the holy name, his rup, gun, and karma, his form, his qualities, and his pastimes, then that's not Swayameva Sparatyada. This is what we're supposed to come to. Now, we're going to look at another purport from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sarta Darshani, and Leela Purushottam Prabhu was expecting this last week, I think. So he speaks about guru-seva. And this is his commentary on the 28th chapter of the 4th canto, the 34th verse. Sutan hit veti patibrata patyor eva guru. So just like a wife who is a patibrata, she's a very, very chaste wife, and she's serving her husband in the same way we do guru-seva. Eva guru-sevayam pravrita sishya Shravana Kirtan Adinyapi Bhogantad Utana Premanandan Apigrihantad Uchita Vivikta Stalam Api Naiva Pekshate. In the same way that a wife, even though she has a son, she has a child, and she loves that child by nature, but she doesn't allow that to disturb her primary service, which is to her husband. And so in the same way, a disciple, Shishya Shravana Kirtan Adi Jnapi Bogan, who he may be doing his chanting japa, hearing and chanting, but he knows that my guru-seva is even more important than this. And this is what Srila Prabhupada was instructing to Jayapataka Maharaj. And even I've heard, it's a controversial thing in our society. Once I had the good fortune, it was on Janmashtami. Actually, it was Prabhupada's Appearance Day festival in Vrindavan. And I was taking prasadam at the festival. And I happened to find myself sitting next to a very sweet devotee who's initiated in the Gaudiya Math. At that time, he was in charge of our Goshala in Vrindavan doing service. But he was officially initiated in the Gaudiya Math. And I thought, well, this is a good opportunity. I like to learn things from different people. I'm always very eager when I meet someone who's a little outside of the box that I'm in generally to gain a deeper perspective of things. So I asked him, I said, Prabhu, you've been initiated in the Gaudiya Math, but you've also been serving in ISKCON for over 10 years. So can you tell me what you like about the Gaudiya Math and what you like about ISKCON, what you don't like about the Gaudiya Math, and what you don't like about ISKCON? And he liked the question. And he told me, he said that one thing I like very much about ISKCON is that Srila Prabhupada gave us 16 rounds every day. And you don't chant 16 rounds and you can't stay. Whereas in the Gaudiya Math, it's considered even, I know I don't say any names, but some of the biggest Gaudiya Mata acharyas, I know some of their personal servants who don't chant any rounds, like zero. But because they're constantly serving their guru and like in a very, very intense way, that's considered to be chanting by them in their system, not in our system, but in their system that's like that. And so he said, I like that Srila Prabhupada stressed you have to chant at least 16 rounds a day. And he said, what I like about the Gaudiya Mat is that for them, they don't minimize the Siksha Guru. And the Siksha Guru can be more prominent than the Diksha Guru. And I've noticed this too. If you go to the Keshavji Gaudiya Mat in Mathura, what's the phone? Krishna Kun, can you get your phone, please? If you go to the Keshavji Gaudiya Mat in Mathura, I don't see where is that it there? It's ringing. Sounds like something over here.
There.
Where?
I can't
Oh,
put it
that.
down. Because I can't take it up, I can put it down. Basically. Hi, Krishna.
We have a house phone, a regular old-fashioned phone. It's the first time it's rang since we've been here. Just 1 minute.
Igen. Aki kint van Indiában. Megkérdezhetem, akivel beszélek?
Can you call her back, Krishna Kun?
Edith néni ül le egy picit. Csak ül le egy picit. Na, szóval ezt mondani. Jó. Légy üljél le egy kicsit. Nem tudtam már, hogy már ott tartott, bocsánat. Az a helyzet, hogy olyan szíválni. Februárban.
Okay, I'm sorry. It looks like it's a really important call or something. And it's really hard for me to speak at the same time. We'll go ahead and try. So if you go to that Keshavji Gaudiya Mat, which ISKCON Brajananga Parikrama was doing for many years, because you'll find there the deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Srila Prabhupada installed in Jhansi and was worshipping, and later he gave to his friend Bhakti-Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. If you go to that temple, you'll find that at least years ago, I don't know now, but everybody there were initiated formally by the Acharya of the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, but their main guru was their Siksha Guru. And this is the point that my Gaudiya Mat friend was making to me. He said, this is what I like about Gaudiya Mat, that the Siksha Guru can be more prominent than the Diksha Guru. Whereas in ISKCON, one thing I don't like about it is that the Diksha Guru is considered everything. So in this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is describing that there may be certain persons who are doing their kirtan, obviously for their own bhoga, for their own pleasure, their own sense gratification. But someone who's a real disciple simply wants to serve Gurudev. Just like a good wife who's really pativrata, who's really dedicated to her husband, may put the service to her husband even ahead of the service to her son. In a similar way, there's another purport I'd like to show you. This is from Jiva Goswami, and this is from the BBT translation to Bhagavatam 11:255. When they say there, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, ya etadrisha pranayavams teninayana tu sarvada parama veshanaiva kirtyamana sutaram evam evogaga nasaha syat. that if a devotee is absorbed in the loving service of Krishna directly or indirectly, he's always glorifying the Lord by transcendental loving service. And therefore, even if he chants the holy name of Krishna with improper attention, due to being absorbed in the Lord's service, the mercy of the Lord purifies his heart of all sinful reactions. So even if someone is engaged in service and they say, well, this service is really hard for me. Tamal Krishna Maharaj once, he told Srila Prabhupada that I'm sorry, but I can't be the GBC anymore for India because it just disturbs my nama-bhajan too much. And Srila Prabhupada replied to him and said, who cares about your nama-bhajan? I want this. So that service to Guru, even though it may appear that this is inattentive, that chanting, if it's inattentive because of our service to Guru is the main thing. And that supersedes even the chanting of the holy name. So there's also many different descriptions we can offer. Yeah, let's go through this a little bit about how Krishna enters into the heart of the devotee. And the way that this happens, this is from Harinam Chintamani, chapter 4. Bhaktivinoda says that Vaishnava Nikate Jari Bhaishe Kata Lakshana Deha Vaite Hoy Krishna Shakti Nisarana. Kata Lakshana means that just for a moment, Kata Lakshana. Deha, you come close to the body of a Vaishnava. Vaishnava Nikate Jari. Jari means if. And if you do that, then that Krishna Shakti that's in the body of that Vaishnava will enter into you. Say Shakti, Shraddhavan. If you have faith that Shakti can enter into your heart, Hridaya Pasya, and it makes you start trembling, Bhakti Udaya Kore Deha Kanpaya. And then ecstatic emotions appear in the heart of that person. So this is a result of staying close to a Vaishnava. Pratame Asi Betar Mukhe Krishna Nam Namare Prabhave Pabe Saiva Gunagram. And for the moment that Krishna's name enters into their mouth, Krishna's name enters into our ear, we hear from the mouth of Sadhu Guru, then that name enters into our ear, then it goes to our heart. And from that moment, the devotee develops all good qualities. And this is our system. Diksha Kali, Bhakta Kori Atma Samarpana, Chaitanya Chaitamrita Krishna says that at the time of initiation, Krishna says, Say Kali Krishna Tari Kori Atma Sam. He accepts that devotee is non-different from himself. Because this point that we've been making repeatedly, this verse from Dhyan Chandra Goswami's Padatis, Gorgivan Smarna Archana Padati, and I'll finish with this verse. Mano madhyestito mantra mantra madhyestitam manaha mano mantram samayuktam etadi japa lakshanam. This is japa lakshanam. This is the quality of, this is the definition of what japa is. Mano madhyestito mantra. When the mind becomes situated in a mantra. Mantra madhyestitam manaha. And the mantra becomes situated in the mind. Mano mantram samayuktam. When the mind and the mantra become one, etadi japa lakshanam. This is the process of chanting japa. But this comes, this realization comes when we practice this tanadapi sanichena, which is our Siddha Pranali mantra, which is a process that we use to approach Sadhu Guru. And when we approach Sadhu Guru, who has Krishna in his heart, as Krishna tells Durvasa Muni, I'm in the heart of such a devotee. When we approach him that way, and Sevan Mukhihi Jivado, we chant for service for Gurudev in that way, then Krishna comes to our heart through the meeting of Gurudev, through the holy name. So this is our understanding about Siddha Pranali and the process and how it works. I'd like to go ahead and stop here. I'm very conscious again that we've given a lot of Sanskrit and Bengali verses, and it's been a lot of new concepts also for devotees, really radical things. Some of you may wanted to just like go offline and just run away screaming or something. when you heard some of the comments that we made about chanting 64 rounds. As one sadhu friend of ours in Vrindavan, who's a real amazing sadhu, it's a lady. She's the only Western lady who's ever been invited to stay in the Gambhira. And she was staying for some years instead of Bakul. She was chanting 3 lakhs a day for many, many years and living at Radhakund chanting 3 lakhs a day. She went back to Vrindavan and she stopped chanting that so many. Now she's chanting 16, and she makes a point that chant more is very good, but chant a fixed number of rounds. And some devotees, they think that it's a numbers game, that if I chant this particular number, then I'm going to get such and such a result. It's not a number game. What Bhaktivinoda Thakur stresses, he speaks about chanting 4 rounds a day in Harinam Chintamani. And he says gradually one should increase that. But it says the most important thing is the quality. And when we understand Tate Krishna Bhaje Kori guru-seva, that this Krishna bhajan that we're doing, this is my guru-seva, then Gurudev will come through this. Krishna's mercy comes through Gurudev, and it'll come through Gurudev and through the holy name. That's what's the most important thing. And we should just be constantly chanting, because that'll also please Gurudev. And maybe if we're not doing other services, we can chant 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs a day on our beads. That's a very good thing to do. But if we can't do that, if we're working, we have different services, then we chant at least 16 rounds a day. And therefore, Jayapataka Maharaj was instructed by Srila Prabhupada that don't chant 32 rounds, just chant 16 rounds a day. Similarly, my friend Bhagavat Maharaj was in Bhubaneswar, and Srila Prabhupada called him into his room. And Bhagavat Maharaj was visiting there at that time. He's from New York City. And Prabhupada told him, he said, I'm looking for someone to stay here in Bhubaneswar and be the temple president. And Bhagavat Maharaj was getting really nervous. Looking around, he could see that Prabhupada wanted him to do that. And so he was trying to get out of it. And he said, well, Prabhupada, I'm going back to America, and I have a very important preaching engagement. We're going to be traveling all over and distributing books in universities, and it's a very important. Prabhupada said, some other persons can do that. I want you to stay here. And that place at that time, there was nothing. There was no village, anything even around that temple. It was just in the middle of nowhere. There were literally wild elephants. There still are. There's a wild elephant preserve to this day, about a 20-minute walk north of the Bhubaneswar temple. We used to go there sometimes. And there were scorpions and cobras, and it was a crazy wild place. And he didn't want to stay there. So he said, Prabhupada, I have a service. Prabhupada said, that's okay, someone else can do. And then he said, well, Prabhupada, actually, I'm not feeling very well. My health's not been good, so it's not a good idea. And Prabhupada said, so good, you stay here. You have nice natural water, fresh air, your health will come back. And now he's getting really, really nervous. And he said, well, Prabhupada, so he reached for his Brahmastra weapon, his ultimate weapon, to say no to Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavat Maharaj told me the story personally. He said, Prabhupada, to tell you the truth, I'm not chanting 16 rounds. And then Prabhupada said, that's okay. You're doing service, so you just do service, and that's okay. And Bhagavat Maharaj, he ran out of things to excuses to give. So then he told Srila Prabhupada, he said, well, I guess the disciple should follow the order of the spiritual master. Prabhupada said, yes. So you stay here, and that will please me. And Bhagavat Maharaj, to this day now, he says that was one of the most wonderful instructions he ever got, because it was by that instruction that he got association with my Guru Maharaj, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, for some years, and which had a very powerful effect on his life. I don't mean to cite that story, and that's why we gave all these previous statements about from Haridas Thakur, Kanda Kanda Deha More Deha Jari Pran, better that I die, cut my body to pieces, but I'm not going to stop chanting. And my Guru Maharaj used to say that, he said sometimes the most important service you should do every day, the most important sadhana is you should hear the Bhagavatam. Now, what about the chanting of the holy names? He said, oh, well, that's another thing. Better you die. then you don't chant your 16 rounds. If chanting 16 rounds, that's in another category. Hearing Bhagavatam is the most important sadhana. And chanting Hare Krishna, that's not exactly sadhana, that's just your life. That's just your everything. There's no question of ever stopping that. Even if we're chanting nama-bhajan, nama-bhajan, even if we're chanting with offenses, don't stop chanting. But that chanting, as Srila Prabhupada said, is a prayer for service. And if we get service to Gurudev, that service is even more important, according to Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur and our acharyas, that personal service is the most important thing. If we get that instruction, I never got that kind of instruction. I served my Guru Maharaj as his personal servant for a few months in 1994. And there was my average sleep during that period was 3 to 4 hours a night for like 40 days or something. I was really tired afterwards, but I never ever missed chanting my 16 rounds. That never happened. And I wouldn't have even considered that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. We're focusing on all this as part of this Prema-bhakti-candrika to understand what is Siddha Pranali in our line and what is the process of Siddha Pranali for us. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground. I'm hoping in our next session to do kind of an overview, and I hope I can do it in one session, of all of these last 10 sessions about Siddha Pranali, and just kind of so we can understand it all together. There's a lot of things. Anybody have any reflections, comments, complaints? I hope I didn't make anybody angry. Bonnie, you're not angry with me, are you? Bonnie has such a soft heart. I don't know if she's ever been angry with anybody in her life. She's such a good soul.
I have a soft head, not a soft heart.
I don't think so.
Soft in the head.
Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody else with anything you want to share? Oh, there was a couple of written comments. I can go to those right now. Let's see. Ujjvala Rasiga, she just liked the statement, there's no life if we disobey the loving order of Sri Guru. And Leela Purushottam Prabhu comments, it's scary for the case of disobeying out of weakness or inability to obey. Well, that's a really interesting point, and it is scary. But let's look at Srila Prabhupada. Someone could correctly say that Srila Prabhupada disobeyed the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told him, you go to the West and you preach. And what was it? I think for 11 years, Srila Prabhupada didn't do that. So someone can say, well, just look and see, he disobeyed his guru. But he didn't disobey his guru. There was a time and place for it. And he always remembered that instruction. He was going in different temples and crying and praying and cultivating and studying Shastra and things, cultivating his ability to preach in the West. And he always remembered that instruction. So we should be careful. And sometimes we may not be able to execute a particular instruction, but let's keep it in our heart. And we may be too weak to do it at the time. We may be unable to do it due to family responsibilities or this or that. But we should always remember that instruction. Ujjvala Rasiga also coming in. Dorothy is next. I see that as a baby dependent on the loving mother's guidance, sweet or harsh. Yeah. Ujjvala Rasiga, she has 2 daughters, so she knows the importance of a baby and how they're dependent on the mother. Ujjvala Rasiga, you still here? Okay. Having Ujjvala Rasiga's association is a very rare thing, and she always makes wonderful comments, and we've been missing her for some time. Dorothea, why don't you go ahead? And then maybe Ujjvala Rasiga, if you have anything, we'd love to hear from you. Even get to see you if we can. Dorothea, Hare Krishna.
I'm very grateful for this presentation. I like to. I'm very just grateful to be in this sangha. I just have to repeat it again and again because.
Well, I'll give you a little tip. When you meet Gaurnitai Prabhu, Orishir, Tirthakar, Leela Purushottam, Prataparudra Prabhu, or his good brother, when you meet any of these devotees, you should give them sweets, prasadam sweets. That's really important.
Okay, I will do that.
And pizza. and pizza.
Pizza.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Dorothea,
so my reflection is, my reflection is that I would like to reflect a little bit and ask a question about the one statement from that Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 11, and so the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they quoted Srila Jiva Goswami that if a devotee is absorbed in a loving devotional service of Krishna, then so if he chants even with improper attention, due to being absorbed in a Lord's service, then his heart is purified still. So, and also, but also in another place, Srila Prabhupada said in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the most important instruction, or the most essential instruction is that to chant the 16 rounds of japa. So how can we, like, what is an example of some situation where something is more important than chanting japa with attention?
Bhagavat Maharaj's story, or Jayapataka
right.
Maharaj's story. That's why I gave those particular examples. And it's a really important thing we should understand, but we should understand it in the right way. And chanting the holy name is not, I mean, it's a very easy process. Prabhupada used to say it's simple for the simple and difficult for the crooked. Well, I'm in the latter category, obviously, because I've been doing it for so many years, and still my heart is like steel. It's not melting. So Srila Prabhupada saw that we need something more. And so with the devotees in the very beginning, he started sending them out to preach. And this is maybe a little bit of a controversial thing what I'm about to say. But my Guru Maharaj used to say, quoting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, that a real preacher is a Brijbasi. A real preacher is someone who's a pure devotee. Nayendra Prabhu also used to speak about that too, saying some certain things. So, but then why did Srila Prabhupada send these neophyte devotees out? And we see it caused a lot of problems, to be really honest. Devotees, because they were neophyte, they were cheating and doing scams and things and taking money from people and doing different nonsense things, and it gave a bad name to the movement. So why did Prabhupada do it? Because Prabhupada saw we needed to be engaged. Because Srila Prabhupada saw that we can't sit down and chant, that we can't chant 1 lakh a day, we can't chant 2 or 3 lakhs a day. Times have changed. Some devotees have been able to. I think Ayendra Prabhu was chanting at least 1 lakh a day and more some other times. And he was also doing a service of kirtan and other things, and deity dressing and other things too. But for most of us, that's not possible. We need to have some kind of engagement. And so if we're doing that service ordered by Guru, that's a very, very powerful thing. But while we're doing it, we should try to be chanting constantly. Is that helpful, Dorothea? Okay.
Yes, Prabhupada, it's very helpful.
Okay. Now, most
Thank you
important
so
thing
much.
today.
Actually, it's very funny because today yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I am sorry I interrupted you. I wanted to say it was funny because today, also this morning, we were hearing how he tried to talk himself out of it. It's funny because I still didn't get the point, so now I get the point. Thank you very much.
And the most important thing today, you walk away with, give these devotees sweets when you see them.
Yes.
And Gorni Thai Prabhu, make sure pizza is also, but good pizza, not just, it has to, not too much bread, not and some cheese on it and things.
Definitely.
We should please the devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Yes.
Dorothea. And thank you for your helping out so much with the Gora thing. I appreciate that. Anybody else with any reflections, comments, questions? Ujjwal Resig, are you still with us? You are.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. So nice to see
After a
you.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Prabhu, pranams to you, to all the devotees. I took a day off today.
Haribol.
And Prabhu, sincere gratitude to you for whatever you are saying on this Zoom calls. And I'm very happy for all the devotees that they get to hear what they need to hear. Even, I would say, even the neophytes have to hear what you're saying, Prabhu. It's like this. If a patient comes to your doctor, what's the point of hiding what the disease is until the disease gets so bad and the patient would not understand what's going on within? They would lose the faith in the doctor. But if you can say what is going on and what is expected, that is so much appreciated. So we hear so much about Harinam, very wonderful, but giving all different facets and giving us a view from different layers and different dimensions about the count of Harinam, why it is 4, why it is 16, why 64, why not Kirtaniya Sadahari, and ultimately the icing on the cake is, well, Harinam, it's a different category. That's the life. So touching all these perspectives on vital issues, vital topics of bhakti. Information is available in any YouTube channel. Shastra is also available. But to get to hear, I would still call it as vital, because if one chooses to practice bhakti and one would like to know what is the arena that they are trying to enter into, what to expect, how to proceed, what is promised, what is practical, all that stuff. So from that perspective, all the subject matter that you speak online in every katha is very much appreciated and not readily available everywhere else. As I just mentioned, plain katha is available, but not these vital aspects. That's one thing, Prabhu. And the second thing is, as you have repeatedly trying to emphasize, my understanding today, the take-home, not the take-home point, but the understanding and the essence of what you are trying to give today is Sevan Mukhohi. That's Sevan Mukha to guru-seva. Primarily Sevat Mukha, that servitude from within to the very source of who is giving you Bhagavan, guru-seva. That is the life. And next, if your physical body permits, and then you do whatever rounds, 4, 16, 64, Kirtaniya Sadahari, yes, according to the time, place, circumstance, instruction, whatever is given to you. But the basic qualification that is needed for the nama to have its effect on us is Sevan Mukhohi, and primarily Seva to Guru, who gave us that very nama. So that's my understanding today. Thank you so much. And I feel like I am in a place now where I need to be, where I belong to, where I have so many of my friends around. Thank you, Prabhu.
You know, I was really nervous, Ujjwala, when you weren't present for so many sessions. I thought devotees are just going to quit. They're going to stop coming because you're not taking part. Why does anybody want to come if you're not here? By the way, for those of the Dorothea and Orsi, you don't know her, Ujjwala, she's a doctor. She works in a hospital. And so her comment is an interesting comment to me. It reminds me of some of my Ayurvedic doctor friends too, who I've seen. Sometimes a doctor hesitates to tell a patient about their disease because they're afraid that if they tell them, then the patient is going to be completely absorbed in, I'm sick. And then thinking they're sick, they identify with that, their health just declines worse. But at the same time, if someone is mature enough and you tell them, look, you've got cancer, you have this serious problem. If they're a serious person, then they can digest that. It's a heavy, heavy thing to tell them, but they need to hear it. So in a similar way with devotees, sometimes we hesitate. We don't, we just say, just chant, dance, and be happy. Everything's okay. And we don't speak about the 10 offenses to the holy name. Because people may become afraid by that. We're afraid if we start speaking about that, they'll become discouraged. They may give up chanting. So it was an understanding of those principles also that I stress so much, this thing about nama-parada-yukta nam-namanyeva harantyagam, that whether you're chanting with offense or without offense, don't stop chanting. Just go on chanting. And we're speaking this thing, it's not an appropriate subject matter for a Sunday feast lecture. But as you're saying, you're very kindly encouraging me that we should keep doing this, and you feel it's even appropriate for new people, for non-devotees. It can be appropriate even for non-devotees. I agree with that. This is our philosophy. It doesn't belong to us. And if we don't hear this philosophy, then we may think, what's going on? Why am I not getting a result? Someone goes to the doctor and the doctor says, yeah, you're okay. The doctor doesn't tell them they've got stage 4 cancer because they don't want to freak them out. So they walk away from the doctor. The doctor says, I'm okay. But man, why is it I've got these headaches and it just doesn't stop? They lose faith in the doctor. So we need to encourage people to grow up. And it's one thing that I find a little annoying, to speak in a negative way, please excuse me, but I find annoying in our society is we want to dumb down everything and treat everyone like they're little babies and not speak these kind of things because it might freak somebody out. You know? And your second point you were making about the importance of guru-seva and nama-bhajan, my Guru Maharaj made that personally with me, and he made that point very strong in some lectures and things, and it's really something that maybe I carried a little from those discussions with him. Dorothy, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something else? Put your hand back down. Okay. Yes. Dorothy, Hare Krishna. And Leela Purushottam Prabhu's got his hand up too. And Hari Chandra Prabhu, what do you think? Any comments from you about all these things? We haven't heard from you in a few weeks.
Hare Krishna, thank you for wonderful katha. I have experience when I was speaking about how many rounds chanting the disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, that the devotee who I was speaking with was upset that he told me that this is not in, how to say, Prabhupada taught us chanting 16, and this is information. It's not for me, not for my ears, and therefore I thinking about this situation, and I would like to know what better attitude I need have for this situation, because I think that I speaking about this information with somebody, maybe I'm proud or I have some, how to say, but it is about my attitude. I thinking that the person is.
We should be very, very careful when we hear Hari Katha. Our Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta is so deep and so vast, and there's always misunderstandings in our society. And one thing that we do as neophytes, oftentimes, when we hear something we haven't heard before, then immediately we want to take it like a stick and go beat somebody on the head with it. Even though they're really not interested in hearing anything we have to say anyway, but we want to go and push it out. And the result is negative. Because the 9th offense of the holy name is Ashwadadani Vimukhe Prashinvati Astopadesha Siva Nama-paradha, to speak to someone who doesn't have faith in us. to try to give them instructions. So we should understand that there's certain medicine, there's certain treatment, there's certain things we say to different people at different times. And some of the things that we're stressing today are important. As Ujjwal Rasage was commenting, these are important things, very important things. But some persons may, because they're just here for a party. They're just here for some good food and pretty girls and having a good time at the temple or something. And then if you tell them these things about nama-bhajan and this and that, then they think, well, my God, this sounds so hard. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to surrender to Guru. I don't want to follow Guru's instructions and things. So they become discouraged. In a similar way, if you say something to some devotees about 4 rounds a day, although there's lots of pramanas about that in Harinam Chintami and other places, some devotees become excited and upset. Prabhupada didn't say that. Prabhupada stressed 16 rounds. And for us in ISKCON, 16 rounds is it. You can't change that. It's always at least 16 rounds. And Prabhupada said you may chant many more rounds after that. He said, don't let your mala sleep. Prabhupada said something a little different. Sanatana Goswami says that after you finish your quota of counted rounds, you put your beads on and you keep chanting. But that's asankyanam. But Prabhupada just encouraged us to always be chanting and always have our hand in the bead bag. It's the same principle. The particular detail is not so important there. Is that helpful, Prabhuji? Chandi Prabhu?
Yes, according to place and person, I will be speak more carefully.
Okay. Hare Krishna. And let's see, I think Bonnie and Dorothea both made some comments. Let's see. Bonnie says, oh my God, yes. Thank you for saying we should not be dumbing down or hiding the philosophy. The pure amazing philosophy is what is so attractive and makes people happy, and included to see the devotees have something precious. I just heard a lecture the other day from a Swami saying philosophy is no good for new people. I was so disturbed by this. They pretended they had to leave for the restroom to get away. Yeah, I've also had problems like that sometimes. The restroom excuse is a good excuse. But this philosophy is so beautiful, even though it may be very deep, we should express it even to new people. But there's an art, and art means to a particular medium, whether it's painting or music or sculpture or architecture, whatever. It's a form of communicating your feelings, through some expression. So the art requires a connoisseur, requires someone who's going to appreciate it. And in your communication, you're going to speak differently to different persons. When I speak to a 2 or 3-year-old child, I say boop boop. I make little noises like that. And now if I speak to a university professor, I don't make noises like that and do that. They won't relate to that. We have to speak according to the person. Dorothea comments, reflection on speaking the blank truth, even in institutions. I was crying once in a meeting with an appointed ISKCON guide because I could not believe that I had rejected Krishna before, and that is the reason why I'm in this material world. And since I had some tendency for self-pity, I was expecting her to comfort me. But she said, it's good to cry because it purifies. I felt angry at first upon hearing that identifying so much with my victim role, but I tolerated because I saw some truth in her words. Yeah, we're going to school. And sometimes the teachers are not so expert sometimes, but still it's a good school. It's a very good school, the ashram school, and we want to support it. But most of us can't tolerate staying in that school for living in the ashram forever and ever. But it's good for training. Gornitaipa will comment, say, he likes the way I break through our comfort zone by writing up seemingly contradictory statements. As Bhima did many times with his friends too, with love pushing me out of the net. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to go in and speak about these things about nama-bhajan and how more important than chanting is the service, but I have to quote this verse, Kanda Kanda Deha Mora, from Haridas Thakur. We have to stress both sides. Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy is very, very subtle. And I like Leela Purushottam Prabhu's comment very much. Appointed guide sounds scary. That's my experience too. Our philosophy is very subtle, and when we just have an appointed guide who's supposed to be in charge of us, that's really freaky, weird, crazy stuff. But at the same time, when I'm in the ashram, that's required. Ashram is a place of discipline, and we have authorities, and we should follow them. That's what it means to live in the ashram. And if you don't like that ashram, if you don't like those rules, you can't follow that system, then why did you join the ashram in the beginning? But we should have an understanding why I'm there. For most of us in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, to practice and understand the etiquette, how to deal with senior devotees, how to deal with others, how to eat, which hand to eat with, and so many little things. It really requires, it's so helpful to have some training in the ashram. So that requires some discipline. And the persons who are leading us may not be perfect. And that's a bitter pill to take sometimes. But it's there that for a reason also Krishna's given that, because we're getting a lesson that really I don't want to just follow institutional authorities, but I want to follow authorities that I genuinely have faith in. I think that's a reason why Krishna puts us through that. Orsi, do you have some comment or question, something?
Yes, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, everyone. I would like to share that your lecture supported me in my understanding that even however it's good to immerse in bhajan, it's more important to make my seva and to do the scientific preaching. So actually it was my realization in these 2 days that I should be aware what is my service.
At the same time, I have to comment that seva is something which is given to us. And it's not just that I randomly decide, oh, I want to go and do this thing or that thing, but it should be approved. And that's why we have a society, and in the ashram, we have authorities who may not be perfect, but they're guiding us something. And Srila Prabhupada appreciated that. But ultimately, my Guru Maharaj used to say that we want instruction and service from our Guru. And I feel very, very blessed. Of all the things I got from my Guru Maharaj, I got many, many things. Just watching him do kirtan was a great gift. Hearing his Hari Katha, hearing the Siddhanta, seeing his adherence and strict following Shastra, it was a great gift for us. But of all the different gifts that he gave me, the most important gift for me is a particular personal service he gave me. And that's kept me alive over the years. That's our Bindu, that's our printed magazine. That's my everything. Well, thank you. Let's see, who else? Did somebody else have their hand up? No? Okay. Anybody else want to share anything?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Purushottam Prabhu?
I wanted to ask you first before I forget it. If you could share with us that quote on WhatsApp. I don't even remember the reference. I didn't catch it. About the guru being the mantra being guru. The mantra given by guru is non-different from guru sakshat. And then Guru is Hari himself, Swayam, and then there is one more line, but I really like that.
Yo mantra se Guru Sakshat. Yoga, yeah, very nice verse. I'll do that right this moment. Okay.
And then I have a few thoughts about this nama-aparada yuktanam. It's actually so, it seems to me like so crucial to understand why at the end of the list of the aparadas there is this instruction actually for the methodology of the chanting, because we may very easily end up in a conception that like to, how to say, to achieve success in devotional service, you have to be accomplished. You have to, you need some aside qualifications, and you could come up with the conception, okay, that's not for me. I mean, I'm so fallen that I can't do the activities of bhakti. I can't do the sadhana even. So in that sense, it's so important to understand that it's not really a matter of how fallen in a sense we are, but rather of the attitude of our engagement in the activities of sadhana bhakti. Like what is much more crucial to like consideration is how duplicit I am, how crooked I am, and that will rather disable the mechanisms of progress in bhakti, rather than how fallen I am. I can be I can be 100% vishayi and whatever, just engrossed in the matter, but still, if I will be engaged in the chanting, then I'll be on the progressive path. So that was although we know further instructions on the science of nama-bhajan, niraparada namaloy, we know that our endeavor is not to be lenient, like lazy about avoiding aparadas. Oh, okay, nama aparada yuktanam, I can do whatever, and I will still chant. So that will not be really effective. But still, like the ground, the bottom ground of the discussion, you can't really say to anyone, oh, you don't have the qualification for chanting. That's probably what I want to say. You first have to ... and then you can start to chant. Like that's like totally philosophically invalid conception.
Really? I mean, the standard process is you have to follow Varnashram Dharma properly, be situated in your Varna and your ashram for at least 10 or 20 years. And then after doing that, maybe you can start to chant.
Since you noticed my I'm sorry, maybe I was too bold. I just obviously inspired to write.
It's painful when you go to a doctor and they tell you something which is complete rubbish. You know you have a sickness, and you know something about the process, and they tell you just some nonsense thing. You feel hurt by that. You know, what kind of doctor is this? You feel you become discouraged. I don't want to go to that hospital again. And so in the same way, when we come to understand that the chanting of the holy name is everything, and who cares if you're bisexual, transsexual, I don't know all the terms they have for those things. That's all right. That's your thing. But just chant the holy name. Just chant. Whatever situation that you're in. We used to sometimes go to gay parades in San Francisco. And I would hazard to say that's a very difficult place for Hare Krishna devotees to go. That was my experience. But I appreciated them. I love them. They're beautiful people. And our message to them was a very simple one. Just chant. They're not, you talk to those ladies, with their body tattoos and their whatever, their funny appearance. They're not going to like become a chaste housewife. Do Varnashram Dharma, forget it. But they can become a Prema-bhakti. They can chant the holy names and become much more advanced than me. And that's why this is a Yuga Dharma. Varnashram is not the Yuga Dharma. It's something that we do to help us to keep from falling away from the Yuga Dharma. But not everybody can do Varnashram. But everybody can chant. And we should. Chanting is so important.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
letting us hear it again and again. May I ask you one? Again, I will come up with a little controversy this time.
Oh, good. Your controversies are always the best part.
Not too big, a little controversy. Because I really liked that quote from Hari Bhaktivilas, not too little, not too much. Now, how would you protect Srila Prabhupada's instruction for 16 rounds for everyone, no matter what, for the argument it must be considered individually? The guru should say individually, seeing the capacity of the particular individual, saying from 4, 1, whatever, up to 3 lakhs, whatever. But how would you protect the Prabhupada's implementation of 16 rounds for everybody over such a statement? Or maybe the possible argumentation based on that statement?
Well, first of all, the fact that you're coming up with the question is kind of an observation of the fact that we're inspired by personalism and we're individuals, and why everybody has to do the same thing. Well, in reference to that, first of all, the story that we told of Bhagavat Maharaj is an example that Srila Prabhupada did make exceptions sometimes, and he was able to do that. Now, why didn't he incorporate those exceptions more widely, or make it a permissible thing to incorporate those exceptions? Some people can chant 4 rounds, or some people can chant no rounds for a day or 2 because they're busy doing service and whatever. Why didn't Prabhupada make some statements publicly like that? I'm going to go out on a limb and just present my understanding of Srila Prabhupada in the situation, because Prabhupada didn't comment on that. But I think that in the West, and seeing what was happening with the movement, if Srila Prabhupada would have publicly said, well, I made this exception for Bhagavat Maharaj, he doesn't have to chant, then he's going to start getting 100 letters every day. Prabhupada, I'm also like Bhagavat Maharaj. I also can't chant. And there'd be but there may be exceptions, and I agree with you. Just historically, there's one of Prabhupada's disciples who's been friendly with me over the years, Tripurari Maharaj. He got in some flack some years ago because some of the disciples that he initiates, he tells them to chant 25 rounds or 32 rounds, and some of them he tells them to chant 8 rounds or 4 rounds. It's different at the time of initiation. And some of his godbrothers in ISKCON, just a fuse blew in their brain when they saw that, and they got very upset. And they, in one sense, they correctly criticized, because Prabhupada said, as I think it was you or maybe Dorothy or both were commenting, that the 16 rounds a day, this is the most important service that we do for our spiritual master. And that was a standard set in stone that Srila Prabhupada wanted for our society. But I personally feel, and I know other examples, I think one of them is a public example, so I'll go ahead and say it. And that is that Shivaram Maharaj, he initiated, I think it was Goni Taipu, you correct me, I think it was Keshava Bharati Maharaj's mother, was it? He initiated her, and I don't think she had to chant any rounds, because she had cancer. She was leaving her body in a few days, and she wanted to take initiation, so Maharaj agreed to do that. And she couldn't chant japa. So there obviously there's going to be exceptions sometimes. But in an international society, if you even mention the fact that there can be exceptions,
it's risky.
What's that, Krishna Kun? Okay, Krishna Kun says that she was chanting, but not 16. So that there may be some exceptions. Yeah. And as Goni Taipa was saying, my Guru Maharaj used to say a minimum 16. Prabhupada used to say minimum 16. And just keep chanting always. That's one of I see many times initiation ceremonies here in Hungary and also in other places. The devotees say, Gurudev, I'll chant a minimum of 16 rounds. And they say that because it came from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada wanted devotees to chant more. But the main thing is, we're the Society for Krishna Consciousness. And chanting Hare Krishna is the main process. But that japa is not easy for everybody. So we have different services that we're also doing. Prabhupada gave that. But we have to have this minimum. That's the stand. That's my humble understanding. Buji, I don't know.
Yeah. In that regard, I really like your, and I heard you already a few times from you, this explanation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's demand for lack of nam, and your suggestion for how to implement it is so realistic. I really love it. Like you stick for the Sankhya nam that you got from Gurudev. It's pronounced number. It's best for disciple if it's pronounced number. And then you just have to learn yourself with your responsibility to your nama-bhajan to always want to occupy your consciousness with the Harinam. So whether you have a hand in the beatbag or not, it's just your choice on a 50 times daily. You have to decide, do I occupy my consciousness with the Harinam, or do I put my consciousness into something else? So in that regard, it's such a practical advice that we just should want to develop that habit, just chanting, being in contact with the holy name. It's so nice, so wonderful. And I was also thinking about this Vishwanath's purport, because I was waiting for that as you expected from my last comment from the last week. That what it tells to me actually is that if we understand the essence of chanting being like the kirtanam, being the endeavor to glorify the Lord, then in that sense, what it tells to the sadhaka is that his engagement in the service, in the activities of service, which are not directly chanting, doesn't have any other purpose than to glorify the Lord, actually. He can see all those services as his endeavor, active endeavor to glorify the Lord, and thus can see it as a kirtan, and in that sense not separated from his nama-bhajan, because in that sense he also wants to glorify the Lord.
Yeah, like in Vrindavan, there is not 24-hour kirtan going on. Someone may correctly say. They stopped the kirtan. They stopped the chanting Hare Krishna at Mangal Artik time and Tulsi Puja time. They stop it at time of japa. They stop at the time of Bhagavatam class. But Prabhupada, they stop it because Prabhupada said all those things are also kirtan. And I find it a bit disingenuous, let's say, to be polite, that devotees sometimes they think that when we have a kirtan mela or something, we just chant the Hare Krishna mantra constantly. And then I'm not against that. I think that's, wow, that's super awesome. But if you look at our tradition, and I've often commented on this, we have so many songs from our acharyas. And that's a general time to sing it. When there's an Ashtaprahara kirtan or 24-hour kirtan or going on always like in Vrindavan, that's the Hare Krishna mantra. It should always be chanted. But outside in other different programs, we can sing Hari Hari Bifale, we can sing the songs of Bhakti Vinod, and we should. It's such an important thing, and chant Hare Krishna.
Actually, the policy in the kirtan party in Krishna Balaram Mandir is that if there are temple programs that they cannot have the kirtan as they are used to, there's always a member of the party who has a hand in the beatbag and is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, so that the Akhanda Nam is not broken, because that was conception that it should be Akhanda Nam, like unbroken Nam.
That's beautiful. And you see, if you go around Radhakund, also there's a group there. I don't know how many years they've been there. I've been going around Radhakund for over 30 years. And every time I've gone there, they've been chanting Hare Krishna day or night. That's a beautiful thing, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. But there are other songs in that, and that's also something we should do. But if you're doing that Akhanda Kirtan, that's another thing.
It's special vrata. It's just like that. That's what we want to do. Like it's,
yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's good you understand. It makes me feel sad when I see some of my Gaudiya Mutt friends or Babaji friends kind of laughing at ISKCON because they just chant Hare Krishna. Well, that's pretty, it's not a bad thing. It's pretty good they chant Hare Krishna everywhere. But, you know, why not also sing these different songs? They're there for a purpose. They're good. All right. Ujjwala Rasiga comments also, because ISKCON is just stressing 16 rounds, many people tend to go to the Gaudiya Mutt for initiation. Yep, that's going on, what to do. And there's different devotees have different ways of dealing with it. Jayapataka Maharaj, he's initiating devotees into 4 rounds a day. Shivaram Maharaj, they have a whole system here in Hungary. I don't know all they get certificates if you chant 1 round a day or 4 rounds a day or this or that to try to make up for that. Because we're also preaching, and in that sense, someone could say it's a kind of competition. I don't know personally. I feel uncomfortable with that personally, but we have our ISKCON system. Bonnie says, I think people go to the Gaudiya Mutt because the bhajans are so attractive. Thank you, Bonnie. I agree. Let's be honest, the bhajans are awesome there. I was visiting for some time in 1996, especially some of the different sanghas. I love the bhajans, and it's something which has always stayed with me, and that's why I'm speaking about it here today. Something. And Krishna Kun,
the bhajans. I think one can really appreciate the bhajans only when they understand their relationship to their nama-bhajan. Like when your nama-bhajan is shaped and formed the mood of the bhajans, and you can taste those results. You can have something tangible, some experience, how effective they may be on your nama-bhajan. Then it would be so much more natural for ISKCON devotees to want to sing bhajans.
Yeah, thank you. Gorni Taiprabhu, do you want to share something? Krishna Kun, by the way, just posted a link from Back to Godhead magazine about Shivaram Maharaj's initiating Kesha Bharati Maharaj's mother. So I posted that in our WhatsApp group also. The devotees can look at it. It's a really wonderful story. Gorni Taiprabhu.
I would like to join to this conversation when the Purushottam Prabhu mentioned is that how important together to do together the nama-bhajan with singing songs and chanting Hare Krishna, because that creates a good atmosphere, good mood. Because when we are speaking about numbers, sometimes we forget the mood how we chant, and you are not. So you always stress that you also have to have this mood of guru-seva. But that also could be sometimes mechanical, sometimes like a pushy thing. You have to serve your guru. It's always depend on the mood. And that's my problem, because I am a competitive person. But I have to go back to my childhood when I was a sweet baby.
You were actually sweet at one time.
Yeah,
really?
According to my mother. Yeah.
Your mother, okay, while you were sleeping.
Yeah, sometimes when I was just laughing like that. But yes, I have a bad fortune. I don't have any brothers. And that was my point, that when I was crying for my mother and crying for my father, mother came. But father sometimes didn't came. So that's my point. If I really want to get the help of Srimati Radharani, I have to cry. And that's my point. I have to learn. And until now, I didn't understand how important to learn to be a little child and to learn to chant in this crying mood. It's very difficult. And that is the key point. Why difficult chanting? Because we are not thinking we are a little child. So that's my.
And we speak about ashrams. You've been living in the ashram here for so many years. And that's the purpose of the ashram, to teach us how to cry when we chant. And it's not such an easy thing. Right? Bakin Bani, she also commented that also at the Gaudiya Math, nobody's discouraged to read Chaitanya Charitamrita and books of the Goswamis, not keeping books hidden. Yeah, I 100% agree with that also. Ursa, you want to add something?
Yes, thank you. I would like to reflect on Gornitai Prabhu thought on learn for crying, the help of Srimati Radharani. Personally, I have an experience that it's not easy to cry because if someone was neglected as or ignored as a baby, he or she learned that it's better not to cry because it's so painful. There is no answer to that crying. So our mental body is so much rejecting this crying, because if there is no answer to that crying, it's of course it's a fear. Actually, it's not the reality, because Srimati Radharani would answer, but it's a psychological, how would I say, barrier to overcome, and to even you have a fear, or even I have a fear of crying, just go on, and maybe the result will be different. What you experienced in this body before.
Yeah, sometimes we go for years and years. My grandma told the story sometimes about Suparnika, the sister of Ravan. And what was her fault? Well, she was attracted to Lord Ramachandra. Is that really bad? I mean, aren't we all supposed to be attracted to the form of the Lord? Why is that so bad? And how did he reciprocate with her? Krishna says in the Gita, Yeyatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajami. I always reciprocate. How did he reciprocate? He told Lakshman, cut off her nose and her ears. But that's really not very nice. And what kind of reciprocation is that? The poor woman. But if you think about what happened to her because of that, no man's going to marry her if a girl cuts off her nose and her ears. There's no man which is going to marry her. So she couldn't get married, and she couldn't forget about Lord Ramachandra. And my grandma has commented that for tens of thousands of years, it was Treta Yuga, they lived for a long, long time. She was living and suffering and never forgetting about Lord Ramachandra, and nobody would touch her. And because of that, she was crying and crying for tens of thousands of years. But that crying always gives result. If we cry for our husband, if we cry for our wife in this world, we cry because I don't like the politicians or this or that, those things are a waste of time. But when we cry to Krishna and Guru, those things are always going to give benefit, but they may take time. And Suparnika took birth again in Mathura, in Dwapara Yuga, and she became Kubja. And she got association with Krishna in that life. So that was his comment. So we should understand that crying to Krishna and Guru through the chanting of the holy name, that's always going to be beneficial, even if we don't see a result like Suparnika for tens of thousands of years. But don't cut off your nose or ears, okay? Okay. Hare Krishna. So why don't we go ahead and stop there? I still have some of my japa to chant, my counted japa. And next week is going to be a little complicated. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but because we'll be in New Brajadam a few days before our session, then I hope that we'll have time to work something out, because it's hard to have an internet connection there. We may have to go to the village, or we may have to go to the office, the temple office, but we'll be able to work something out by that time. So we should be okay for next week. And then next Thursday, a week and a day from today, we're going on Padayatra, Krishna Kununai. And so I mentioned before, that anybody wants to come and join. I think Lila Purushottam Prabhu is going to India at that time. But anybody else who's not so far away, if you'd like to come, you just let me know, and we'll plug you in with the organizers. And it's a really, really ecstatic program. Dorothea is commenting here. Conversations about crying to Guru and Krishna are, from my perspective, the most essential conversations. Because if you can't cry for many years, then it may be due to never inquiring about why I can't cry and how can I cry sincerely. Everything else seems like a distraction from the crying, or at best a crutch to the crying. Yeah, sometimes if we're adopting a bahirmukh or external attitude toward bhakti, kind of an institutional attitude, then oftentimes we feel uncomfortable talking about crying. We feel uncomfortable even about speaking about independent thinking, because we want to just treat everybody like a baby, and it's real antiseptic and prophylactic, and it's nice and neat, and it's beneficial, and that's life in the ashram. But life in the ashram should be that we want everybody to cry. We should be training them to cry. Life in the ashram should be that we're training people to grow up and be independent thinkers. Just like a good parent wants their children to grow up and think. But when they're a baby, and the child, I give this example all the time, when they're a baby, they say, hey, don't stay away from that bottle of bleach. And if the small child says, what's wrong? I want to drink the bleach. It looks very beautiful. Mother says, because I told you so, that's why. And she doesn't explain about the chemical properties and the biological effect of the bleach is going to have on the baby's body, because the baby can't understand that. She just says, because I said so, that's why. You can't do it. But the same mother wants that child to grow up and be an independent thinker when they're mature enough. But that maturity is required. We have to become mature persons. It's not just that, oh, no, I don't like the temple anymore. I don't like the system of Vaidhi Bhakti anymore. I'm an independent thinker, and I'm going to just decide what I want to do on my own. And then we don't make advancement. It's very difficult. Good comment. Okay. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week. I would suggest that everybody chant some extra japa and say some prayers, and maybe if we chant sincerely, we'll get Ujjvala Rasiga's association again. I very much hope so. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo, Vansakalpatarubhyaścha, Kripa Sindhubhya Eva cha Patitanam, Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo.